Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our second podcast. Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Hi, Jocelyn. Not feeling well today, but yeah, all is well.
Thanks for jumping into this podcast. I know it takes up a lot of energy as well. So, everyone, we are here today. I know we had received a lot of questions asking about this work. What is this all about? There were a lot of curiosity I think we raised from the first podcast, Lynn. So, maybe today we just want to tell our audience about this work, what is soul contract reading all about, and a little bit of the work. We're not going to go too much in detail because there's a lot of history behind it. But what we will do is we will kind of give you an overview so that you understand because of all those questions that came in. So we want to just show you where it comes from and what is it all about. So shall we jump into that, Lynn?
Definitely.
Okay, so I am going to project a chart here so that it's easier for me to explain. So this is basically a chart that you're looking at right here. And if you look at this chart, that I know it looks gibberish, but don't worry about it. I'm going to just explain to you as clearly and as simple as possible how does this work. If you look at this whole chart, it has got a deep history behind it. But before I go into the history behind it or the work itself, we want to understand that when the soul actually comes in, the soul has already decided on the name, the experiences, kind of the challenges, the talents, the goals, and maybe the soul destiny itself. So we actually choose our name. The soul chooses the name. And when I say chooses the name, literally, it doesn't mean really choosing the name, but the frequencies that we are carrying and embodying for us to come here and live this human experience. So that's what the soul actually does. Now, with this frequency in the charts, we are able to see that story. All the experience that we are going through are not coincidence. We have kind of planned it in our soul contract, and that soul contract is what is reflected in this chart. Anything you want to add in, Lynn?
Oh, all good. I'll jump in whenever.
Okay, right. So the story behind it is we choose our names, we choose the experiences, we choose the relationships we are within, because those relationships actually help us to work on the soul contract. It sounds kind of crazy whenever I say this to anyone, but the most intense relationships are actually helping us work through our challenges. Saying that, I'm going to go through this chart and just explain how it works as well. So if you look at your birth name, so one very important thing here, the key thing here is the birth name itself. So using your birth name, whatever name is written on your birth certificate document, that is the name that we actually use here. So if you look down here, you will look at all these different numbers. And the question is, where do we get these numbers from? So these numbers would come from the frequencies or the alphabets from the Hebrew letters themselves. This modality is from the alphabets that are in the Hebrew alphabets, which carry those frequencies. And each of this, we're not going to go too much into the details of those numbers and the technicality of it. However, if you are interested in calculating, please do reach out to us because there are a lot of technical calculations that we need to look at as well. So going back to this now, so when you look at the name, this name carries those frequencies. And each of these alphabets, according to those alphabets that you saw earlier in that chart, we will plot them under the names. And after that, all this is plotted on this chart. So technical, a lot of technical stuff, but it's okay. If those who are interested, reach out to us. And what happens is, after we've tabulated all of this, it is placed on this star, which is known as the Star of David. And this Star of David has got actually two parts. So one is known as the star which is pointing above, and then there's a star that points below. So the star that points below is the physical star or the physical triangle. And the one that points above would be the spiritual triangle. So what's the difference between this physical and spiritual triangle? The physical triangle would actually tell us about a lot of things that we experience in life between birth, 0, and about 35 or 42. And then everything that we experience thereafter. But that doesn't mean, oh, there's this definite timeline, 0 to 35, 42, I'm going to experience only this, and then there's nothing else that I'm going to experience after that. But it is a theme that perhaps sometimes we work on it earlier, and then sometimes it kind of lingers on. So this style, David, helps us understand those themes and work through those themes as well. I know you may have lots of questions, like wondering, so what does this mean? And what does this mean? And there's this physical karma, there is this spiritual karma, and then they all are like numbers all over the place. What do they mean? But not to worry, because that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast, even just to let you know what they all mean, right? And one very important thing, I'm always asked this question, like, so is this the same as numerology and astrology then? It's a very good question, because the minute people see numbers, they are looking at that. They're always thinking about astrology and numerology because numbers are always related to that.
That's something which we wanted to cover a little bit, because astrology and numerology in different systems are quite popular. And in fact, astrology is one of the elements of soul contract reading. Every number is tied to a planet or a zodiac constellation. So it carries certain meanings and frequencies from those planets and constellations as well. And then there's also the 22 numbers corresponding to the 22 major arcanas of the tarot cards. And the soul contract system is also based on Kabbalah, which is the tree of life, the story of creation. And if you notice, then every number has got a symbol that comes with it. So contract system is pretty much like a very expensive and open-ended system with different elements, different aspects coming together. And that's where it has got the beauty of ageless wisdom, of ancient wisdom. It stands apart from the traditional numerology because it's not based on the same 0 to 9 or 1 to 9 or 1 to 10 numerology system, but this is based on the 22 vibrations of the Hebrew alphabets. So there's a clear distinction there. At the same time, I also wanted to say that soul contract is very much, I wouldn't use the word esoteric system so much because it may sound a bit big, right? But soul contract deals with both the physical aspect and the spiritual aspect of your life. And in the center, as you can see, is the soul destiny or the life purpose. So it's a combination between the personality and the spiritual aspect of our existence in this lifetime. Whereas a lot of other systems may generally be known by only its personality aspect or its physical aspect, like, am I going to be rich? Am I going to be poor? Or what age can I find my Prince Charming or whatever not? So all of these traditional systems may deal very differently with certain aspects of life, whereas soul contract system deals with a more well-rounded version of yourself. And the ultimate purpose is to help you map out the pathway to combine the personality or the physical aspect with the spiritual aspect of yourself in order to have a more fulfilled expression on the earth plane, as opposed to just operating purely on the physical, emotional, or mental level. But here we're talking pretty much on soul level as well. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned just now, where it is a wholesome, like a wholesome meal is like a wholesome system. It combines the physical and the spiritual elements of this life. And that is very deep, because you tend to understand why a lot of things actually do happen and why we have those repeating patterns sometimes. So I think that is definitely there.
And not to mention that everything that happens to us happens on different levels. That's why we are a multidimensional being. We express ourselves on physical level, emotional level, mental level, and higher levels, as in soul or spiritual level. So in this system, we are talking about the multi-layered expressions. And when it comes to mapping, everything interrelates. The physical aspect is conditioned by the spiritual aspect and vice versa. It interrelates. So we don't look at a single element. But of course, for the purpose of the podcast, sometimes we'll just single out an element just to talk about that. But I just want to highlight that we are looking at it as a holistic picture of your life, not as standalone elements like in some other systems. So,
And I think just to go back on what you said just now on the symbols, just to show what symbols are we talking about. So when they're all the symbols, and what we will do is as we go through the podcast, we will explain what they mean, because all those symbols are very relatable as we explain each of those symbols. So I guess this is an overview of this whole modality, the soul contract reading modality. And of course, it's known as soul contract decoded because we are kind of decoding whatever we can see in our birth name. Okay. So I hope this was interesting and helpful as well.
can I just add that these symbols were originally channeled by Frank Alper, who is the founder of this work. If you meditate on these symbols, you can very well get different meanings altogether because the symbols have their own life in a way, and
An energy that
they're
they
living
carry.
symbols. They carry different energies and they can probably speak to you in different ways as they speak to other people. So that's something that you may find helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We are going to come back in our next podcast soon. And today, what we did was just an overview so that you understand, because we received like so many questions asking us, like, what is this about? What is soul contract reading about? What are you guys talking about? So we just wanted to give you a little glimpse about it. Okay. And a very important thing is, if not after seeing those numbers that I showed just now and the alphabets, do not try to really kind of calculate on your own, because there are a lot of details that we really look at when we calculate, because from your birth name. And so there are some combination alphabets as well, and they carry different frequencies. So if you are interested or you want to know more about it, reach out to us, drop us a question. You can ask us questions about your chart, or if you're interested in getting your chart decoded, then just drop in your name into the form and let us know. Okay. Thank you, and see you all soon. Okay, bye.